Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir,
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Does anybody want breakfast? Guys, let's go. I'm leaving for McDonald's in 5 seconds.
Why didn't you start with that?
The Breakfast Stampede Meal. It's only at McDonald's, where there's a meal for every morning.
Enjoy our value favorites, like a sausage McMuffin with egg, just 2 for $4. And get an any-size McCafe Premium Roast Coffee for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Single item at regular price cannot be combined with combo meal. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hey, you guys. Welcome to the Skates Threads podcast. This is your host, Chris Patton. And as always, I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Dakota LaShock. Dakota, how you been, man? How's your week?
I am doing wonderful. My week has been spectacular. It's good to have hockey back on the television. Got a nice present from you there, Bud, this week with that memo from Chris Nilan. Pretty much gonna, I guess, change the entire way we pronounce my daughter's last name from here on out.
Yes,
fine, I guess.
Turns out Knuckles doesn't care how your daughter's name is pronounced, even though I gave him advice on how to do it. But I wouldn't expect anything less from Mr. Knuckles. Maybe we'll throw that clip in at the end of the show for everyone to listen to.
Oh, for sure. It's hilarious.
It was a good time, for sure. You guys check out Nilan. He is doing videos, like not Cameo. It's some other site.
It's Memo, yeah. But if you know what Cameo is, you know what Memo is. It's basically the same thing. So they have Ken Danico on there.
Ken Danico?
Yeah, for $40.
Yes, this hockey version of Cameo is a lot cheaper than actual Cameo, it turns out.
Yeah, so. Martin Brodeur wanting $250 for a Cameo.
Well, I mean, when you're the greatest of all time, you can demand that kind of money.
But you know what I found? Like, if you're gonna go that route, Brett Hull is the only way to go, because that man will roast you if you ask him to. I've watched several of his cameos where he just absolutely lays into somebody.
I don't think
I love it.
I don't know that anyone is charging more than the Undertaker. Undertaker's was ridiculous, but if you go look up Undertaker on Cameo, he's got the full gimmick on when he does these videos. So
happy birthday, little Johnny. I hear you're 8.
They're so good. He's like, I heard you beat cancer, just like I beat 22 people at WrestleMania. You're like,
this Thursday at the Astrodome.
I mean, I love Taker, but the idea of like buying someone a Cameo Undertaker video and Taker being in full gimmick is just so weird. So
like anything over $40, man, like $40 is like the max, because I mean, it's a really cool idea. I don't know. I dig it. But yeah, I'm not spending over $40 for someone just to say, hey, what's up?
Well, the crazy part is like some of these you see, it's like $200, and then you watch their previews and it's like 15 seconds. Like Knuckles gave you like a solid 5 minutes.
Yeah, Knuckles gave me like a solid 4-minute video, and he fucking harped on my team for a while, and I loved it. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you get one like all the way up top, like a Brodeur, or like even Marchand, they're just like, hey, what's up? Heard it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Like there's no personality. You get the guys that are like lower priced, and man, they're freaking awesome.
Yeah, they actually just want to talk to you, bud.
Yeah.
Maybe we can convince Knuckle Nilan to come on the show after.
Oh, hell yeah. I'd love to talk to him. He did, in fact, beat the living shit out of my Flyers, so I mean, I can't really knock him for that.
So we had some big news today. This was today, right?
Yes, it was
a big trade, and we talked about it on the episode that we won't be able to release. Maybe.
If anyone wants to know the little backstory on that, we did record an episode last week, and I had my daughter with me, and she decided to have a meltdown like 30 minutes into it, and it just became an entire ordeal. So lost episode.
I will try to clean it up and post the lost episode out there for everyone. We did talk about Corey Crawford and his retirement. We talked about the opening of the league, but not a whole lot. Hey, at least we got out of the Keith Yandle situation, in which we're like, what are they doing with Keith Yandle?
Exactly. I'm like, good thing we didn't release that because we were proven wrong within hours.
To be fair, that's not our fault. Joel Quenneville. Well, let's start with this as a news item before we go into the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, because I think that's probably going to take a while to break down. But this Keith Yandle situation, when we talked about it, I prefaced it with, I don't think he's actually injured. It's a healthy scratch. That's what they have him listed as. And they just healthy scratched this guy to fuck with him because he doesn't play. And everyone knows this about Keith Yandle. He is very much an offensive defenseman. He's not terrible on his own end, but he's not going to play the type of defense that Joe Quenneville would have been used to during Chicago's heyday. If we're being completely honest, he's not a Patrick Sharp out there.
No, that's a fair point.
But they are seemingly threatening this guy's Ironman streak of some ridiculous number. I think it was like 768 games. It's like the fourth longest running streak of any hockey player of all time as far as how many games they've played consecutive.
I think it's actually in the 800s if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. Well, either way, he's fourth on the list. I don't have the numbers pulled up. But so he ends up playing. He scores a goal. He has a great game. His first
866.
Game. Okay, that's what it was. Okay. Scores a goal his first game. Everyone's happy. The fans are happy. I think Florida ends up winning the game, if I'm remembering correctly. And then 2 days later, Joel Quenneville's like, well, we still don't know if we're going to play him all season. And you're like,
what do you want from me?
What do you want?
Thanks, Dad. Jeez.
Like, I get that Keith Yandle is not a Victor Hedman.
But he's still out there producing results for you.
It's the craziest thing because from everything we've ever heard about Keith Yandle, he's been known as a really good guy. It's really funny to hear like teammates, well-respected people like Shane Doan, who unfortunately, as great as he was just stuck in a very shitty time period of the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah. Wasn't it the Phoenix Coyotes too?
Yeah, there you go. The Phoenix
and then the Winnipeg Jets.
But I mean, he came out and he went to bat and ripped into Joel Quenneville and said it's not right to do this to a player. And I kind of completely agree. I am on the Shane Doan, Keith Yandle train on this one. How do you feel about what they're trying to do? Do you think this is pressure from the office with Keith Yandle, or do you think it's a Joe Quenneville thing?
I don't want to put it all on Joe Quenneville, especially if it is like a front office situation. That being said, he is the coach of the team. He is the one who is in charge of these day-to-day decisions. So ultimately, the decision to either continue or end this guy's Ironman streak is in your hands. So, and again, like we just said, I can understand if he was just out there not really doing anything, just kind of floating around, not really being a presence, but he's still out there trying to get results.
Yeah, and I guess we should go ahead and say that he does have a no trade clause.
Yeah.
When he signed the extension, he put in a no trade clause, and he's given them a couple teams he wants to be traded to.
Yeah.
Some of them do not have a fit for a Yandle, I guess. And this seems like this is why I asked about the front office thing, because if we're like, hey, let's move the salary cap, let's try to, get some younger talent or some prospects and some picks back, Yandle would be a person that you potentially could move. It's just crazy. It's all coming out before they even played their first game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's especially to a guy, I think, that it seems like most players in the league like him. This is not a situation of like an Evander Kane or, someone that can be a little problemsome in the locker room.
Yeah.
So it's fucking weird, but Yandle just keep tucking those goals. Go for the Rocket Richard this year.
They want to bench you, show them every reason why they shouldn't until they trade you, and then you can be free.
If he should just start playing like Jonesy from Letterkenny, no defense, selfish playing only from here on out.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, if you're gonna treat the guy that way, that's how I would play if I was him.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know what? Let's tally these goals, boys.
Yeah. You know what? I'll do it. He'll fucking do it too.
So let's break down this Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. On the Lost episode, I had thrown out 3 possible landing spots. One being the Rangers, because I thought they needed help up the center. I thought maybe you could trade Capo Kakinen and maybe either a prospect or a later round pick for a 1-for-1, and that seemed like a good landing spot. The other landing spot was him for Laine Watch. Which is what happened. So Patrick Laine, he gets his trade. That's where he wanted to go, because we've talked about this in the past. He wanted to go to LA, and now he's in Columbus, Ohio, which, no offense to people in Ohio. I love Ohio just fine. Cleveland's a pretty cool city, but I mean, while it's different than Winnipeg, it is very vastly different than LA. So.
Yes, it is. And you know what? I realized it's something that sounds like bullshit. It'd be like, oh yeah, we had a Lost episode where I totally called this Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, but I'll go to bat for you here. It is something that actually happened. He did call it.
It's it's been out in the media for a while that he wanted to be moved, and it's unfortunate for Columbus because it seems like every time they sign this level of player to an extension, they just bail like midway through their contract. There's a big history of this with Columbus, and I guess the big question and the thing that you're probably most excited about is Tortorella. He benches Pierre-Luc Dubois for being, I guess, kind of a toxic asshole from what we can gather from these trade rumors and how this thing has went down, to only pick up Patrick Laine.
Yeah, who is also notorious for being a spoiled brat.
So how long until Tortorella gets fired from the league by bullying Patrick Laine?
I don't know. I just know that he's probably going to become like John Ritter's character in Problem Child, and Patrick Laine is going to be little junior there. Always call it. I wonder who's going to be Gilbert Gottfried.
I mean, one thing we've seen for Columbus this year is they need scoring. Obviously, bringing in Laine is going to help them in that department.
Yeah.
Pierre-Luc Dubois to Winnipeg. I don't know if that's necessarily where he wanted to land, but that makes Winnipeg a much more dangerous team, especially in that northern division, which there hasn't been one team that's really blown me away in the North right now. I mean, Montreal's looks really, really good. Nick Suzuki has kind of stepped into the next level of from what we saw in the playoffs. He just took that one step forward, but their goaltending is still a little weird. Like the whole North Division, and I'm not just saying this because they're Canadian teams, but it's
I don't want a bunch of angry Canadians tweeting at me. I'm very pro Canada.
It's a little bit of a toss-up right now. If you've watched the Oilers and you've watched the Leafs, you see glimpses of really great stuff, but it's really hard to pinpoint like who the best in that division is. I think that a lot of people had the Leafs penciled in to just run away with this thing. And
but it's the Leafs. Are they really going to do that?
I have no idea, but so far they haven't looked like that. And now Austin Matthews' injury, which we'll get into a little bit later, but if he's out for multiple weeks, that could be really, really rough for that team. But it's just it's a weird scenario in general. Pierre-Luc Dubois coming into Winnipeg. I don't think Winnipeg is a bad team by any means. I think they have some pretty good goaltending. I'm not 100% sure, but is Brian Little back yet?
That's a good question. Let me pull that up in my notes. Because, again, we are professionals on this.
So I've only gotten to watch some of Winnipeg's highlights. I haven't had an opportunity to watch a full game. The Canadian games I've watched so far have been The Canadiens versus the Leafs and the Oilers versus the Leafs, and I've caught like one Calgary game and a little bit of Vancouver here and there, but I haven't watched a full game of Winnipeg, so I'm not 100% sure where their roster stands right now.
Yeah, I haven't either. And to be honest, I forgot the name immediately as I started to Google it. That happens.
Well, they had a couple big injuries last year, Little being one and Blake Wheeler. Assuming that they're both back, which I don't know for sure. Pierre-Luc Dubois, he slots in as I'm assuming he's going to slot in as their first line center.
I don't see anything on where if he is back or not.
Okay. Well, we'll never know.
No.
But if it's me, I honestly think that Winnipeg probably won this trade.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's really hard to find a very, very good first-line center that is probably going to have a very long NHL career. If they can keep him happy, which is hard to do in Winnipeg. They also have the same problem Columbus has, where players just don't want to live in Winnipeg.
Yeah, because, Winnipeg. I'm
going to laugh really hard if Byfuglien now comes out of retirement.
Is he gone?
Because he's technically still on the roster on LTIR, and I mean, if he's healthy to play, he could come back like middle of the season, right? Maybe he just didn't like Laine, because some of these things really lined up with Byfuglien not coming back. If you listened to our show last year around this time, actually, it would have been around, August, before the season started. All that stuff happened at the same time with Laine's contract, and then Byfuglien just being like, no, I'm just going to stay home and fish for a while. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Winnipeg. Like I said, that division doesn't have a clear-cut person. Maybe Pierre-Luc Dubois shows up, that everything clicks. Winnipeg go on a huge run. It's just really, really hard to say. I do like Winnipeg's goaltending more than most of the teams in the North Division. I mean, Carey Price is great, right? I mean, I would say he's probably the best goaltender in that division.
Oh, for sure.
But he's also one person. And I don't...
Yeah, you can't carry an entire team on your back.
Unless you're Mackenzie Blackwood, in which you just, whole team get over here. But speaking of injuries and the Canadians, not the Canadians, damn it, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Jumbo Joe, out for 1 month with a rib fracture. He's been a big part of their power play. He hasn't really shown out, but the entire reason of bringing him in was obviously to be a veteran presence and kind of help try to control the locker room a little bit. As far as everything we've heard, him going out, that obviously sucks. As everyone knows who's listened to this podcast, we're all Jumbo Joe fans. How could you not like Jumbo Joe? But what do you think this means for the Toronto Maple Leafs? And knowing that Matthews is potentially going to be out, which we'll get into a little later, that is going to hurt what they were doing on power play quite a bit.
I mean, this just sounds like a typical Toronto Maple Leaf season. They start off with all this hope and promise, like, oh, we got all these new guys, they're coming in, it's going to be good. And they are, and, you get a little taste of it, but then one gets injured, and then two get injured. And next thing you know, you're without most of your star players for a good chunk of the season, and by that point, it's just too late to recover.
One thing I don't understand about Toronto is every season it seems like the first 5 games their coach comes out and yells about their level of competitiveness and how it seems like they're not being competitive enough.
It's Toronto. How competitive do you want them to be?
It's very weird. So bringing in Jumbo Joe and people like Wayne Simmons this year, obviously they're trying to instill a type of team camaraderie, bring in some veterans. But this shouldn't even be a problem. You have John Tavares. Shouldn't John Tavares be the guy?
I mean, seems like that should be the case, but I mean, I don't know. Did they ever come forth and just name a captain, or have they not done that?
I'm pretty sure that Tavares is wearing the C.
Okay.
But he was with the Islanders, and not necessarily good Islanders teams, for a long time, and we never heard about their issues with lack of competitiveness.
Oh.
And some of this is Toronto media, obviously. It's the same thing as like if the Yankees have a bad game, it's way different than like, if the Devils have a bad game, it's not as big of a deal. It's a smaller market versus like, the Rangers or the Maple Leafs or the Bruins.
Yeah.
But man, this is
that's painful, and there's a bit of it going around in the league, losing players like this, some to their own stupidity.
Did you have one particular person in mind?
Well, I actually had 4 particular people in mind, and that was kind of my segue into our segment on the Capitals and their seemingly clique of Russian players, because I think they were all, it was Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Orlov, I'm fairly certain.
Samsonov.
Yeah, Samsonov. Pretty much every person on that team that is of Eastern European descent was probably hanging out with this. But they broke COVID rules. So that's not cool, especially at a time when it's not something that people should be joking about.
Yeah, the coach Laviolette came out and he said right now the players are in quarantine, and at this point I believe it's 4 games and under review. And so we'll go from there. There will probably be an announcement at some point, but I believe we're looking at that, and we'll look at everything. Ovechkin came out, and his quote from this was, "I regret my choice to spend time together with my teammates in our hotel room and away from the locker room areas. I will learn from this experience."
No, he won't. It's fucking Ovechkin. No, he won't.
I mean, Ovechkin, unfortunately for him, he was on pace to eventually beat Gretzky's goal record if he could put up, 20, 30 goals for the next 4 or 5 years. We've had 2 shortened seasons.
Yeah.
Now he's going to be suspended. We saw them try to load up with Lundqvist, and it seems like we're going to fire one last shot with this Washington Capitals team, who haven't looked bad at all this year.
No.
But it's just crazy to think that this is something that Ovechkin get hit with, and also what were they doing in this hotel room? And we go back to the history of Evgeny Kuznetsov, who
let's say it's his past isn't exactly Snow White.
Well, no, it is exactly that.
Well, I mean, it's there was a joke there. I don't know. I couldn't find it.
So this is crazy, and I don't think this is going to be the last we see of this. Obviously, something happened besides 4 players hanging out in a hotel room.
Yeah, I mean, people don't call the cops on just a fucking game of checkers.
Yeah, so I've hung out with lots of people in hotel rooms. Maybe they were social distancing in the hotel room. You think they were all like
on chairs in corners of the room?
Yeah, playing the new NHL game,
yes.
NHL 21.
I'm sure that's exactly what they were doing, and drinking from their sponsored drinks, and their totally was not a press event.
I just know that I hope this doesn't happen in the Devils, where you lose 4 of your starting lineup.
Yeah, no. Jack Hughes better just fucking stay in this hotel room and not do anything stupid.
That is rough. Those are 4 very, very important players to the Capitals.
Yeah, it seems like it's turning out to be a bit of a cursed season for them.
Well, they're still, like I said, they were performing well until this, but if they're going to be gone, depending on what actually comes out of this, and they're suspended for 4 games. So let's say they're under quarantine for 2 weeks. This is going to end up being maybe 6 to 8 games for them.
Possibly. And that's going to make a hell of a difference in a division where you can't take your foot off the gas for even a second.
Yeah, it's a 56 game season. I think if people need to keep that in mind, you're looking at like almost 10% of your season on 4 players being suspended or out on quarantine.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt them. Although the Sabres managed to find a way to lose to them, so I mean, if there's a will, there's a way.
I did like TJ Oshie's comments on this. He was like, everyone knows we want those guys to be here. They want to be in the lineup, and they feel terrible that they're not. And they put themselves in a situation, and they're not going to be playing with us. But for us, it's the next man up mentality, and it just makes you love TJ Oshie even more than I already do.
He's a pest, but I love him.
He's a pest, but he also, beat Russia.
Yeah, no, that's
single-handedly.
Very true.
If you go back and you watch that shootout, it's like it's they just sent Oshie out 6 times, but they never really talk about who Oshie was actually going against. Because on the other side of that was the magician Pavel Datsyuk and Ilya Kovalchuk on the other team in this shootout.
Doesn't matter.
It did not matter to TJ Oshie, apparently.
Nope. Takes on all comers.
This is a crazy situation for the Capitals. I think once they get these players back, they'll probably be fine. When we did our predictions, didn't I have them? I had them in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's too far of a stretch to, I imagine they'll make the playoffs. The Capitals.
I don't know, man. 10% of your season in this tight division, and we're still using the same point system.
I mean, I guess I could be the person that says anything's possible, Maybe because they went out, the Devils will finally play good, but, it's the Capitals.
Yeah, well, hey, the Devils have been playing good, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But, man, it's Ovechkin has only missed 31 games in 16 seasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I would think as like a veteran of the NHL, you might, I don't, like I said, I don't know the specifics of this situation, but you might, as a veteran player on your team, be the example, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I would take away from this is before anyone goes out and crucifies these guys for the Capitals, which we're pointing and making fun of. Remember that they were stuck in a bubble for like 4 months, and everyone has been trapped at home for forever. And you are forcing these players to travel hotel to hotel in localized cities. I don't know what happened in this hotel room or how crazy it got. Obviously, it was
some kind of crazy.
Obviously, something else happened besides them just hanging out. But we will see more of this, just because human nature is. I mean, it's really hard to just. And this has been hard for everyone. Anyone that's been living in America or across the world right now with COVID and everything that's been going on, and not being able to leave your house. And when you do leave your house, you have to stay away from everyone. You can't go see your friends, etc. This isn't the last time we're going to see this season.
No, for sure not.
And they set a precedent of this being a 4-game suspension if you get caught hanging out with someone outside of the locker room.
I mean, this comes down to you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time, If we want to have a hockey season and have it done properly, they have to follow the protocols. It's just the way it's got to be.
But at the same time, these players are going to have to go out and go grocery shopping. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
It just depends on how you look at this. If you look at this, they were being irresponsible and hanging out together in a hotel room. Well, it's like it's 4 people who are being constantly COVID tested. And if you think about everyday life, like if I have to go to Walmart, even if I'm doing my best with masking and staying, 16 feet away from people, does that mean I catch a 4-game suspension?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the exact policies are. I guess I would have to look at the NHL rule book or what their guidelines are for how they're doing things. But again, if it's a situation in a hotel room with, again, players of questionable history, at least, it would not be out of the realm to expect that things were going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason this becomes more of an issue is because Kuznetsov is involved and he had the cocaine allegations. And
yes,
we will see what happens. I hate to be the guy that says we will see, but this is obviously, if you're a Capitals fan, this is not a good time for this to be happening.
No, it is not.
But if you're a Bruins fan, there's some good news. Pastrnak. He is recovering faster than expected and is expected to return sooner, which means they could be getting him back in the next either a couple of weeks or month or so.
Well, it's definitely a good thing. Pastrnak makes a big difference when he's on the ice with them. The Bruins have, I don't want to say they look terrible, but a little lacking.
Well, we can definitely say that Rask has looked very, very good.
Yeah, Rask has been a wall, but, if you don't have the defense and offense around it, what difference does it make at the end of the day?
Yeah, they're definitely a different team without Pastrnak. I've watched both of their games against the Devils. Rask put up the brick wall, won in a shootout. Halak also put up a brick wall. He did end up losing that game against the Devils, but that goalie tandem is so good that they can kind of get away with.
Yeah, they can do that every now and again. They can switch them out like that. Halak does have his moments, and Rask has his moments too, where they're both not great. We've seen some of that before in the past for sure. But having Pastrnak in the lineup will definitely make a difference.
Specifically with their power play and
specifically with their scoring.
Yes, I will say this: Brad Marchand has looked good so far this season.
Yeah.
And I hate Brad Marchand, but I've watched 3 Bruins games so far, and he has looked very good in all of them. I think that he scored goals against the Devils, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did actually.
Were very, very grindy Brad Marchand-esque goals.
Well, you can't fault the guy for being himself.
No, and he played very clean, and he's played very clean so far this season because he can't afford to take a penalty right now.
No, he really can't. That team cannot afford. They cannot afford to lose him.
It's crazy seeing this version of Marchand where he is having to play the way he's having to play, because it does take a little bit out of his game, but he is showing that he can still, even in this situation, be a goal scorer for them and a big part of that team. And I'm sure he will be more happy than anyone in the entire world that Pastrnak is back.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Yeah, I think he'll come back and he'll just start scoring again, because that's what Pasta does. He scores, except in shootouts.
So when we're talking about the Bruins here, what is this show called that they have?
It's Behind the B. Which is really, honestly, if you just like hockey and you like seeing kind of a behind-the-scenes peek at what they do off the ice, or when, the game cameras aren't necessarily rolling, it's pretty fun to watch, even if you're not a Bruins fan.
This is very much in the vein of like a Hard Knocks, or what they did with the Flyers and Ilya Brizgalov.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just to kind of look at the team and their day-to-day activities when they're not playing games.
Yeah, so I have not watched any of this show, but I did hear these hilarious-ass chirps at Subban.
Oh, yes.
Which were absolutely amazing.
Because it's everything you always want to say to those guys that get up and just feel like, the part of being a celebrity is you have to make your own workout tapes. I don't even know if workout tapes are a thing anymore, but I know when I was a kid, they were still kind of popular. But yeah, he chirped at him. He's like, "Why don't you go make another fucking workout tape, you loser?" You slew-footed me.
Yeah, so Subban and this guy get a little bit of a tussle, and Subban, he's like, "You want to fucking go right now?" And Subban's like, "When I'm ready," big leaguing him basically.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I will fucking murder you." And then later on, this guy continues to chirp. Subban takes a kind of a cheap shot at him. I don't want to say he slew-footed him, but he definitely cross-checked him.
It was a little bit of a slew foot there, bud.
It was a little bit of a dirty hit. Not gonna lie. Not gonna stand up for Subban on this podcast, but it was funny. He's like, "It's fucking slew foot, bud." Why don't you go make another workout video? I just want to know what the rest of the chirps were, because they didn't stop there. Subban is just now breaking up with his girlfriend Lindsey Vonn, so I'm sure there was a lot of that also.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yes, out of the two players I thought that would be having an argument, I assumed it would be Marchand and Subban because they have this long heated history, but apparently that wasn't the case.
Nah, Subban's an equal opportunity asshole. He pisses everybody off.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That being said, Subban has looked better this year. He's getting a lot of shots on net. He had a goal that got called back against the Rangers with just a big clap bomb. So we'll see what happens. He still doesn't look that great in his own end. Definitely not as good as he needs to be. Hopefully Sami Vatanen will come back and help the Devils out in that situation. But yeah, Subban getting chirps always hilarious. And he should have just dropped the gloves with this guy.
Chirps in general are fun. Yeah, I guess he should have just gone ahead and taken care of business.
And to be fair to Subban, both of those Bruins Devils games were very close, and they both went into OT.
Yeah.
So
again, I'm not throwing shade at the Devils because the Devils honestly look decent this season so far.
And if he took a penalty there, that's not very good, especially because the PK for the Devils has not been great.
Yeah, no,
this
for
year.
Sure.
So, and he had already taken a dumb penalty earlier in the night, if I recall properly. So him not wanting to fight the guy, I completely understand in that scenario. But it was definitely funny. And speaking of funny, Ben Bishop dressing as a dinosaur to scare his teammates. This is in the news today. Did you see this? Have you heard about this?
I'm sorry. What was it? Sorry, Riley asked me a question.
Oh, no, that's fine. Ben Bishop dressing as a dinosaur to scare his teammates.
Oh, because he is a dinosaur. He's old, but I love Ben Bishop to death. I'm never going to say a bad thing about Ben Bishop. He likes to have fun. And yeah, he's an older goalie, but you know what? He's still got it.
Yeah, it's hilarious to see him dressing up like a dinosaur and going around and scaring his teammates, especially because Dallas, has had a little bit of a rough start to the season. All their games were delayed for 2 weeks, and this is good to see that they're at least trying to have fun. Just don't do it in a hotel room or you'll catch a 4-game suspension, Ben.
God forbid. Don't go have a beer with your friends, please. Exercise some decorum.
But running around in a dinosaur costume, which I guess, it's one of those inflatable dinosaur costumes, so...
Yeah, at least he was cool on the inside.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like being inside of, like, a bubble. Like, you're like bubble boy or something, right?
For the most part. More or less.
So, Matthews is out with an upper body injury. We haven't gotten a full update, but the coach came out and said with Austin, he's dealing with some upper body soreness. He's going to be day-to-day situation. I'm not too concerned. There was a possibility that he would play today, but he just wasn't feeling right in that sense, so we're going to give him a little bit more time. We know how this can go with Sheldon Keefe and Claude Julien. Or Sheldon Keefe, sorry, not Claude Julien. I was also looking at the Montreal's stat line. I don't want to say that there's more to this than there is because we will see, but this is a very hockey coach thing to say that they're day-to-day.
I mean, yeah, if you're, especially if you're a Maple Leafs person, you want to keep tabs on anything involving Austin Matthews because he is a big part of that team. He brings a creepiness with his mustache, but He also knows how to, he knows how to work a puck.
So, do you want to do the Hall of Awesome first before we get into our just league review?
Nah, let's save the Hall of Awesome for the last thing because it's a good one today.
It is. It is a really good
sad one, but it's a good one.
It is. So let me pull up some scores around the league. But hey, how about this? Why don't you tell me about your Flyers so far this season while I get these scores pulled up?
I know the last couple games haven't been a win for us for the Flyers, but I'm not in any way, shape, or form really concerned. I think offensively the team has looked good. They're playing a bit too much in their zone, and I touched on this in the lost episode, but they're definitely playing a bit too much in their own zone, which is problematic, and it's going to cause problems if they keep doing that. They need to get better about it. But they're still finding ways to deliver. They're still getting pucks to the net. It's good to see Travis Konechny getting out there and scoring like he's been. He's been awesome. Even Claude Giroux. I think didn't Claude Giroux even open up and score one, if I'm not mistaken?
I think so. I heard a weird conversation about Claude Giroux where they're where this was off the Hockey podcast, or the Hockey Buzz podcast, or whatever they do on YouTube / Google Meets or whatever they're using now.
No, Claude Giroux did not score yet.
But they were specifically talking about how Kevin Hayes has kind of filled the role that Claude Giroux has held for years in a lot of ways. And then going back and actually watching some of the game tape, and
it's true, yes.
He does fill a lot of what Claude used to do. It's just surprising because Claude Giroux can be a pure goal scorer when needed. I mean,
and it's hard to say because the last couple of seasons, it's kind of tapered off a little bit. And Kevin Hayes has really stepped into what, like you were saying, what Claude Giroux used to do. Whether or not that amounts to anything, I don't think so, because Claude Giroux is, he's as much a part of the Flyers as, his jersey's going to be retired for sure by the Flyers. I guarantee that. Evidently, my dryer doesn't think that'll happen, but that's fine. No, but maybe it's a past and future thing. Kevin Hayes is a great player. I said that from the moment he got traded, and since then, and he's done nothing but prove it right. I think if anyone does take over the reins when and if Claude Giroux decides to move on, if he does, I don't think he will. I truly don't believe that because he loves Philadelphia with his entire heart. And I've seen that because he's been playing since I was in high school. So then that's 10 years ago now. So it's been quite a while. But yeah, if anyone ever did, I could see that being Kevin Hayes taking up the reins because he's a natural leader.
Yeah, and I would say the bright spots of that team so far from me watching is Carter Hart looks great still.
Yes.
He's had some up and downs, but a lot of that has to do with, to me, this is one thing the Flyers have been doing too much, is they're just making blind passes in the neutral zone.
Yeah, and that's what's causing them to lose their puck in the neutral zone.
And they're also getting caved in and on their own end, staying on their own end of the ice way too long, which the Devils are also having the same problem with. So this is not just me taking a shot at the Flyers, but I've watched every Flyers game so far this season because they have not happened to play the same day as the Devils. So I have ended up watching a lot of Flyers. And that's the one standout, specifically the blind passing directly back to in center ice is something I would be a little worried about, but some of that is just going to be game rust. You didn't get a preseason.
Yeah, and that being said, bringing Eric Gustafsson and him just kind of seamlessly filling into, the role that Matt Niskanen used to fill. He's been a great addition to the team. He's out there making plays happen. Like I said, Travis Konechny absolutely lighting it up. I think it'll keep happening. James Van Riemsdyk, that's another player I thought was more or less tapering off because he's been playing about the same amount of time as maybe a little bit less than Giroux. He's been around for a while. But now JVR is lighting it up too.
The three standout players that I've seen so far outside of Carter Hart while watching the Flyers has definitely been Konechny, Kevin Hayes, and to me, Jacob Voracek.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think simply just because he fucking told that reporter off. I love it so much. That was another thing in the last episode that we talked about. You didn't see it. Jacob Voracek just fucking completely destroyed a reporter. Because this guy's an asshole, and this is a verified asshole, but Jacob Voracek pretty much just told him to fuck off, and he didn't even want to answer his questions and called him a weasel.
Yeah, I think I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but he said something.
Oh no, I can remember it. Remember it. He's like, it doesn't matter what. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I'm gonna say. You're just gonna post fucking bullshit anyway. And then the look on Travis Konechny's face when he uttered those words, it was just simply immaculate. It was literally that Drew Scanlon meme where he's like blinking his eyes and he turns his head. That was literally Travis Konechny's face.
Yes, Travis Konechny is the NHL blinking white guy, Drew Scanlon.
Yes.
Former Giant Bomb host, Drew Scanlon.
Yeah, so it was great. Yes, Voracek has my fucking heart and soul for that. And the Flyers have my heart and soul for letting Gritty come back, because I needed Gritty in my life. You have no idea how much I needed Gritty.
That was going to be the other thing I was going to say about watching the Flyers so far is they're really Gritty is now in love with Kevin Hayes, even though he has stolen some things from him. Apparently,
specified what they were, but I imagine Kevin Hayes will probably get them back in the off season in a weird box.
Konechny gets a hat trick, and we get this great big empty arena with Gritty throwing a singular hat.
just one hat right onto the ice.
Which was amazing. Flyers look good, man. They're in second place right now. They're right below the Capitals. Obviously, the Capitals are going to take a little bit of a dip unless Craig Anderson comes in and just plays lights out.
Well, you never know. I don't really, like I said, I'm not really worried. If you're a Flyers fan, there's nothing to really worry about right now. Beginning of the season, anyway, they're looking great. Defense could use a little tweaking, especially in that neutral ice. Puck defense has got to be a little bit better. But all things considered, they're looking great, and they'll continue to look great.
Yeah, and the Flyers and the Capitals have played 5 games, where most of the division has played 4, with the exception of the Penguins, who got absolutely smoked by the Flyers. They did not look like the same old Penguins that we are used to. Maybe not on the score sheet. If you look at the score sheet, it didn't seem as bad as what actually was happening in that game. But as someone that watched both of those Pens Flyers games, they definitely did not look like the same team that we've seen in years past. The New York Islanders, they're in third place currently. They have looked very good. They beat the hell out of my Devils on Thursday. In the Devils, they had Scott Wedgwood in net and took a bunch of bad penalties. The game ended up being 4-1. But the Islanders, outside of that, the games that I have watched of them so far, they don't look like the grindy defense team we saw in the playoffs. Like, they're actually playing some offensive hockey, which is a little crazy. It was also very weird seeing Andy Green play for the very first time in his career against the New Jersey Devils, former captain of the Devils. That was a very weird but cool moment, because I guess that he didn't ever actually play against the Devils because the midseason trade and COVID happened. Devils obviously weren't in the playoffs, so it was like a really weird thing. And the Devils, Ken Denko on commentary, nothing but good things to say about Andy Green. It was just kind of one of those cool, surreal moments. Like if we did get Lundqvist playing in net for the Capitals versus the Rangers, it would have been kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Bruins, we kind of already talked about so far.
Yeah, they're looking all right. I mean, it's early in the season. You can't. I don't know. Once Pasta gets back into the lineup and I think they get tweaks, they'll start rolling like they normally do.
The Rangers. So maybe some young goaltending woes there a little bit.
Unfortunately, we don't have Keegan here to defend himself. He is celebrating his birthday today.
So,
but that's okay, because we're going to rag on him anyway without him.
yeah, and I don't want to. I'm not going to just completely bust on the Rangers because they did make a comeback against the Devils, but it did take them switching their goaltenders in the third period, and they've done this twice.
Yeah,
where they've had to switch their goaltenders early on.
Maybe it's a question of looking at who you're starting in net.
Yeah, it's Georgiev, right? Did I
believe
pronounce that right?
Georgiev.
He started against the Devils. He lets in 4. It's 4-1. Technically 5. One was called back on a coach's challenge on an offside, which everyone's already heard me bitch about this. Like, if you didn't call it on the ice, I don't know that it needs to be reviewed. This isn't the NFL.
No, you don't need to review every single damn play.
I get reviewing, like, was it a goal or was it not a goal, but, like, reviewing an offsides type.
That's just fucking petty. No, not petty. Pedantic? No. That's a P word. It'll come to me.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up not hurting the Devils. They still won, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But the big thing was in the third period, Georgiev's out, Shesterkin is in. He looks good. But earlier in the season, they had done the same thing. They had started going down. They switched goaltending. So, like, if you're playing the Rangers, you may be playing 2 different goaltenders a game, I guess.
I mean, and that's not necessarily the worst thing. So,
well, generally, you don't want a goaltender coming in cold.
I mean, if you're the opposition, you do.
Yes. So they've been a little weird to watch. Lafreniere has not came in and been a immediate Connor McDavid like maybe some people have thought. He hasn't looked bad, but nothing show-stopping so far. The Sabres, Taylor Hall has started the season out very well for them.
But as we've talked about numerous times, you cannot win with just one player. Yes,
and the fact that Taylor Hall would rather play for the Sabres than the New Jersey Devils is still
and we'll fucking throw the Sabres on his back and carry them, but won't play for the Devils.
Yeah, Jack Eichel has looked great as well. There's some positive things to take away from the Sabres team. I don't think everyone had the Sabres and the Devils pinned at the bottom of this division anyways once the Bruins were moved in and they reshuffled this. And I think the Sabres look better than they did last year. There's some positive things to take away from that team, but we have not seen it yet. You saw a great performance against the Flyers.
Yeah, but it was kind of like a one-off, and I mean, it was a bad night for the Flyers too. So
yeah, it's one of those questions where is this team this good, or was it a bad night for?
I think it was just a bad night for the Flyers.
But yeah, that pretty much sums up the East so far. The Devils are sitting in 5th place. I have watched all of their games so far.
I mean, taking to solace that you're ahead of the Bruins by like a thin hair because their goal differential is better.
Yes. Well, the Devils didn't help themselves by getting just demolished by the Islanders on Thursday as far as goal differential goes. But
yeah.
The thing about the Devils losing Corey Crawford to retirement, which we talked about on the Lost episode, was a huge hit for this team. There's no doubt about it. I think, they were going to have a 1A and 1B situation, and now it's up in the air.
Yeah, they need to do something about Wedgwood because I've watched some of his highlights, and I don't think he's the answer, unfortunately.
He's such a nice guy. I don't like bad about Scott Wedgwood, but
it's not an attack on his character. It's just you need more time to develop if you're going to play on this level.
Yes, and the thing is I don't know that he's ever going to get there at this point. He's been
you know what? It worked for Malcolm Subban, so if he can't get to that level, you can game the system and play anyway. Just keep switching teams, but I mean, you can make it work, honestly.
So is this the thing where you finally admit that Malcolm Subban is not?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a few years because again, I got a lot of love for the guy. This isn't a dig on him as a person. Again, he was a big part of the Knights, and I followed the Knights. I still do. It's my team in the team in the West there. But yeah, it's just, God, dude, I don't want to say it because I like giving the guy a chance, but he's just not that great.
Yeah, well, the Devils did go out and try to address this.
Yeah.
I still think I maybe would have kicked the tires on Corey Snyder, but they claimed Aaron Dell off waivers from Toronto, which probably sucks if you're Toronto.
I mean, you would think that instead of Wedgwood, they would maybe get Aaron Dell some time out there because he's.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir.
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Does anybody want breakfast? Guys, let's go. I'm leaving for McDonald's in 5 seconds.
Why did you start with that?
The Breakfast Stampede Meal. It's only at McDonald's, where there's a meal for every morning.
Enjoy our value favorites, like a sausage McMuffin with egg, just 2 for $4. And get an any-size McCafe Premium Roast Coffee for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Single item at regular price cannot be combined with combo meal. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah, for whatever it was, he's bounced around, but he's still played in NHL games. He still knows what he's doing in that. And looks damn good while he's doing it, I might add, because he's always got the sickest pads. Yeah, well, they need to figure out a goalie situation because you can't put it all on Mackenzie Blackwood. This is the same thing we talked about last season and probably the season before that.
Yeah, well, I think about the thing with Aaron Dell is he's going to be on 2-week restriction for COVID protocol.
Yeah,
because he came from a different division. So I do think that is the move. I don't think the Devils are just keeping Wedgwood up to keep Wedgwood up. If anything, we've seen from Lindy Ruff, he has not been afraid to make changes to this lineup.
No. And with a name like Lindy Ruff, I mean, you know what you're getting. That guy doesn't take any shit.
Yes. So, I mean, main takeaways from the Devils so far, just for the fans out there that listen because I talk about the Devils so much. Mackenzie Blackwood has looked amazing, and Jack Hughes has taken a step forward and no longer looks like what people were calling him, which is a bust. He has looked great so far this season. He's had so many shooting opportunities. He's making just amazing passes. I think where you're seeing him step in, and I kind of talked about this with you when he came into camp and had gained like 15 pounds of muscle. So he looks like he might be the truth. It's going to be great to see Nico Hischier when he gets back. He's been injured. Jesper Bratt is finally back. He has a visa. He's on a 2-week quarantine right now. So once the Devils are back up and running with what their actual starting lineup would be, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them.
I'll put it to you like this: as a fan of hockey in the East, you're not in the worst position. You're doing stuff. It's early in the season. You can figure out the tweaks because obviously you've got some stuff that's working for you. So just keep chipping at it. You're not that far back, honestly. It's still very much anybody's league.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that has been a big highlight for the Devils as well is Ty Smith coming in and playing his first year on defense. He's looked really good moving the puck, contributing some assists here and there. I think he's looked really good. And I like Lindy Ruff's new system where he's having the defenseman pull up and take a shot, put them more into an offensive situation, similar to what you saw Tampa do in the playoffs with, oh my God, why can I not think of his name right now? Tampa does this as well, basically pulling your defenseman in to take a shot.
Oh, Hedman.
No, not Hedman. The guy that hit the game winner when he busted up the boards on the left side in the playoffs. I can't think of his name right now for the life of me. Former Ranger.
Kevin Shattenkirk?
Yeah, I think that's him. I think that's correct. It's been a while since we watched that playoff game.
Yeah, Shattenkirk's on a different team now. I don't know who he's playing for either.
But it's that same defensive.
It's a similar setup to the Shattenkirk. I get what you're saying.
So you're seeing a lot more of that, and we're seeing PK Subban. And like I said earlier, I don't think he's been that great in his own end so far, but he is definitely taking bombs, and it's only going to take so long until one of those come through, right?
Exactly.
And then once the ball starts rolling, we know what Subban can do with that shot. I mean, it's a wicked ass shot. Like him and Shea Weber, Brent Burns, those bombs, if they can get set up properly, or can be lethal. So,
it's funny you brought up Brett Burns because Jennifer showed me or was it you that showed me an article? Someone showed me an article, and it was I think it was Jennifer who did. Brett Burns was at Disney World, and some kid mistook him for a pirate, and he signed the kid's autograph anyway. Because I mean, either way, you're either getting it signed by a pirate or you're getting it signed by Brett Burns. So either way, it's a good signature. I love that he just went with it and it's just like, all right, well, I'm a pirate now.
That's amazing. So coming out of the East, we have the Capitals in first, Flyers in second, Islanders in third, and the Penguins currently sitting in fourth. Devils are sitting outside in fifth. Bruins are in sixth, pretty much tied with the Devils points-wise. And then at the bottom, you get the Rangers and the Sabres. Some of these teams have played 5 games. The Sabres have played 5 games. Yeah. Capitals have played 5 games. Flyers have played 5 games. Devils play today, I believe, against the Islanders. Hopefully that game has not already started.
I don't believe it is. Flyers play the Bruins tonight. That'll be another good one. I mean, it's always good when the Flyers play the Bruins. No, they do not play tonight. They play tomorrow night against the Islanders at 7.
Yeah, tomorrow. It's yeah. And then the Devils have the Flyers back to back.
Yeah, buddy. That's going to be a good fucking game. It's going to, you know what? After looking at this little snapshot of the season, I'm very much looking forward to these games.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff. So that sums up
very good hockey.
Sums up the East Division. Where do you want to head next? I'm assuming you want to head out to the West to talk about your Vegas Golden Knights, who look like an absolute monster.
Like a fucking machine, just like we thought they would. I mean, evidently PDD knows what he's doing out there. Fleury has been looking good. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that, folks. Let's see. Just as a snap, this team has come along very nicely, just like we knew they would. They've been consistently good pretty much since they started. So it's no real surprise there. What is surprising is Minnesota fucking tearing it up. They have 8 points. They are tied with the Vegas Golden Knights. Let me go to theirs and see what standouts on their team so far.
Well, the biggest one to me, and we talked about this in the last episode, is Kaprizov.
Yeah, Kaprizov's a big one.
He looks like the fucking truth.
Yeah, you got Joel Eriksson. Is it Joel Eriksson Ek? I don't know. It's got an extra EK.
It is Ek. Yes.
Okay, Joel Eriksson Ek. He's got 3 goals on the season. Matt Dumba with 2. Love Matt Dumba to death. Good guy. Kaprizov with the 1. Greenway with 1. Hartman with 1. And assist. You've got Kaprizov. He's got 4. You've got Jordan Greenway with 4, Ryan Suter with 3 as well. And in points, it's Eriksson Ek with 5, Kaprizov with 5, and Greenway with 5. So not a bad-looking team, honestly. And that's a good thing if you're a Minnesota fan, because this has been a team that's, I don't know, kind of been up and down in the past few seasons, but it seems like they finally got their foot. They finally got pieces in the right place. They got their foot, got a good footing on this season.
They've been a weird team that's made weird trades over the past 3 years, but have never been completely out of it. You know what I mean? Like you could always think this team is still a playoff team.
Yeah, and that very much looks the case now. Like, I know it's early season, obviously, but again, they still have 8 points. Like, in 5 games, that's good. That's as good as the Vegas Golden Knights. Their scores, or their stat sheet looks exactly similar to Vegas, with the exception being a point in goal differentials. So again, not a bad-looking team at all.
Yes, I will say I have watched 2 of their games. One of them is the Capri Suns overtime game winner.
Oh yes,
I will say, before they went into overtime, Zach Parise chased a guy down on a breakaway and made a great poke check right in front of his goaltender. He's playing very defensive hockey. It almost reminds me more of like how Patrice Bergeron plays, which Zach was always like a good two-way player when he was with the Devils. But this year, because there's not so much on his shoulders, I guess, for getting assists and goals, it seems like he is, I don't know. I think he's been playing well. It just hasn't shown up on the stat sheet.
That's fair. And again, they've only played 5 games, so I mean, this is obviously a thing that's going to develop over the season. But right now, they're sitting ahead of Colorado, St. Louis, Arizona, the Kings, Anaheim, and San Jose, who is sitting in dead last.
So let's talk a little bit about the Avs here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to worry about if you're an Avalanche fan.
No, for sure not. I mean, we can sit here and speculate on all this throughout the season, but the thing is, like, we're only very small amount of the way into the season. So all this is apt to change. But I mean, Colorado is 3-2. So I mean, no overtime losses or no overtime games yet. They're sitting at a 600 with the points, a goal differential of +5. So it's not a goal producing thing, I guess. I don't know what that would be.
I did watch them play against the Kings in their win against the Kings.
Yeah,
and
the Kings.
Nathan MacKinnon has the rocket skates on already. His speed in general with the puck is absolutely ridiculous. I know Connor McDavid gets a lot of love for his speed, but Nathan MacKinnon, his ability to get up ice is an incredible thing to watch, and he was skating the poor Kings into the ground, even with a great defenseman like Drew Doughty back there. It was ridiculous to see a man with as much speed as he has, and they're going to throw Anze Kopitar against him. Like, these aren't scrub players. Like, the Kings are not necessarily what they used to be, but they still
they're not the Flyers of the West anymore. It's back in like 2011, 2010, that era, like, I mean, it was a crapshoot then, but sometimes you got a really good Kings team and sometimes you got a Kings team that's just lacking. Against Colorado, though, they look like the lacking Kings team.
Yeah, and this is nothing. This is not even me taking a shot at LA Kings or the LA Kings fan. I just watched Nathan MacKinnon play against what he was able to do against that team, how effortlessly he skates. It's sick, nasty, and he should have been the MVP last year.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I agree. But yeah, looking at it again, like I said, St. Louis is behind Colorado, sitting at 2-1 with 1 overtime loss. Arizona is 2-2 with 1 overtime loss. LA is 1-2, 2 overtime losses. Anaheim's won a game, lost 2 in overtime. And the Sharks are 2-3-0. So that is your West. And we can touch on the Sharks because they've got a little bit of drama going on with one of their players, if you want to. That is
sure. Go ahead and go into it. I mean,
yeah.
What I will say before we move into that is the bottom of this division is exactly what we predicted the bottom of this division to be.
Exactly. It's not anything that's going to change. I think maybe these 3 teams will shuffle around. I haven't seen anything from any of them to merit anything else. Arizona, I'm always hesitant to say just because you don't know with them. Sometimes you get a really good Arizona team and other times you don't. It just depends on the day, I guess. Plus, Phil Kessel's out there and he'll activate soon and it'll all be good.
I saw Phil Kessel score a goal with 3 seconds left to take it into overtime. They go to shootout, and he's not on the fucking shootout. And I'm like, what coaching decision was made where you don't put Phil the Thrill out on the shootout?
No, he just thought the game was over. He was at the concession stand.
Oh, yeah. He thought it was a tie after
exactly.
overtime.
We're not doing overtime this year. All right, guys, I'm heading to the locker room, and no one heard him, and he just kind of disappeared and ended up at the concession stand.
Yeah, if you're an Arizona fan, I think Darcy Kemper's looked pretty good this year.
For sure.
Especially considering the difficulties that team has. I think that he's played pretty good in net. It was cool seeing Phil tuck one with 3 seconds left. Always exciting.
It's our boy.
Yeah, other than that, I've only watched that the third period of that one game, so I don't have a lot of info on the Arizona Coyotes right now.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not either. But I mean, that's the West. I mean, you look at this West, with the exception of Minnesota being where they are, it's exactly what you figured the West would look like. Which is not what can be said about the North, because we haven't really had a North that looked like this, where it was all Canadian teams. I mean, we kind of figured Ottawa would not be the best of the bunch, but certainly not seeing Vancouver, Edmonton where they are, and Montreal. Like we've touched on that on this episode so far. Montreal's been looking great. Toronto's been looking good for now until they inevitably fuck it up like they always do. Pretty much after that, this this just looks like what every late season playoff push looks like. A bunch of these Canadian teams that are just going to grind it out. And if for nothing else in this playoffs, we know we'll at least get one Canadian team that'll win something. So fans can look forward to that.
Fans can be excited about seeing 4 Canadian teams in the playoffs.
Yes, exactly. And one of them is bound to do something. So the North is going to be a toss-up for me, because all these teams, I mean, with the exception of Ottawa, because, I mean, even if you're a Senators fan, you get it. Not a great team. But the other 6, I feel like this could be a toss-up. It's just early in the season. These teams are going to slug it out like they do. It's good hockey. We've watched. I've watched a couple of the games, and it's just intense, good hockey. So
yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me is Vancouver, kind of where they're at, because I had to pick to win that division, and I still think they're going to get there, honestly.
Yeah, it's just early in the season. Losing 4, that was not easy. It's not a good thing, and their scoring hasn't looked great either.
Yeah, the power play hasn't clicked yet, but once Quinn Hughes and Bo Hovart gets going, and Peterson gets going, that'll be a whole different story, like we saw in the playoffs. I think that's a really, really underrated team. Everyone had Toronto winning the division. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not a huge fan of their goaltending, and they just lost Aaron Dell, which we talked about earlier, because they had to send him down on waivers because they have so many injuries.
Yeah.
The other big surprise would just be Nick Suzuki kind of stepping into his own and looking like
just fucking lighting it up. That kid's incredible.
Yeah, and we kind of saw that in the playoffs, but seeing the continuation of that is good.
It's just like nothing even happened. Like it was just the next day, and he just keeps playing like crazy. One thing of note to say with Ottawa, Bobby Ryan is lighting it up out there, which is a good thing for that guy, because he's been through a lot of shit, and I love to see stories like that. So congratulations to Bobby Ryan.
Isn't Bobby playing with the Red Wings this year though?
Is he? I thought he was still on the Senators. No, maybe. Yeah, you're probably right. Either way, he was a senator, a long-time senator before that. But yeah, shit, you're right. I made another goof up. I'm only human.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Now, I will say, once we get into the Red Wings, I did watch a game with Bobby Ryan where he scores a goal for them, a very important goal. Kind of gets lifted off his ass, and looked like he was injured, and came back and played. And it's like, it's good to see this guy having a resurgence, because there was a lot of questions about his integrity in Ottawa. Then he kind of got moved around a bit, and it seems like he's stepping into a veteran leadership role in Detroit, which is a young team. It was also nice to see the Red Wings throw some fisticuffs at the end.
It's good to see anything out of the Red Wings, any spark of life. I need something with that team.
What was the San Jose thing? Because maybe I missed this. So
Evander Kane. Oh yeah, sorry, we got sidetracked. It happens a little bit. So San Jose, Evander Kane, if you're not familiar, is in quite a bit of hot water with lenders, because if I'm not mistaken, he is. Hang on, I have it pulled up here.
It was $28 million in debt.
Yes.
Something.
$27 million in debt. Which, for a guy who posted a lot of pictures and videos of himself just being an arrogant asshole with his money, not a good look. A lot of people looking at the San Jose Sharks with what they're going to do with him, what Yeah, because this is a guy who and this guy's out here trying to start fights and be fucking stupid, like he can afford to take the penalty. It's not a good look for your team when you have a player that can't manage their money. And this isn't like a Jack Johnson situation where you come to find out that the parents did it or something. This was just a guy being dumb with his money. It's not a good look for the NHL, and it's not a good look for the San Jose Sharks. So there are things that need to be done about this. I think the league will probably end up addressing it or taking action in some way. I don't necessarily know what that is. But San Jose is not looking good this year anyway. It's been a rough start for them. They've won a couple games, but they've never forced an overtime. It seems like they're either going to win it or they're going to lose it. They don't want to spend any more time on the ice than they need to. I think having this Kane thing though hanging over them is definitely probably affecting his performance. I don't know per se if it's affecting the team's performance though, and I'm sure we'll get more information on it as more comes out, because this is something that obviously isn't going to go away. $28 million or $27 million is a lot of money to be in debt to somebody.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to hear this, and you hope that the NHL and other sports leagues in general are starting to put in place some kind of mentorship with
at least have some basic financial planning classes so that people aren't going broke within 2 years of leaving the sport. Because I've seen that documentary on ESPN, the Broke one, where they talk about all the former athletes that have blown through their money and lost it. I think at the very least the league could do something to help people plan for that, and maybe teach them not to be dumb with their money.
Yeah, and sometimes when it comes to investing, you never know what's going to happen, right? So, it's a toss-up. So, for all we know, he could have invested into a hotel that went sideways, or
but then
we haven't gotten
the pictures of him just being an asshole. I mean,
that's the thing, is that it's just one thing added on top of the Evander Kane story that we already know. His time here in Atlanta, his time in Winnipeg. Didn't he go out to Buffalo and was also an asshole?
Yeah, he's kind of characterized by that.
And then on Twitter, he's trying to fight one of the Paul brothers.
Yeah, he's trying to fight Jake Paul, which at this point he probably needs to because he needs the money. So good job. Now you force that.
Yeah, it doesn't look good now that Jake Paul can chirp you for being $28 million in debt, or $27 million, whatever the number was. Who was the goaltender that he dick taps the other day?
Ah, shit. Hang on. I remember you sent me the video too, didn't you?
Yeah, he just slashed this goalie in the nutsack in front of the net. No one else is there. There's no one taking a shot on the net. He's not trying to get a player advantage. He just decided he was going to hit this goaltender in the dick. I mean, that's the best way to put it. I don't know how else to put it. I can't remember exactly. I mean, it was definitely one of the teams in the West, obviously, but I just saw the clip from it. I didn't actually see the game or what would have gotten him so pissed off at the goalie that he felt like he needed to dick tap him.
I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't know. I can't find the link.
Yeah, it was a very goon move, and this was maybe 2 or 3 days after this came out. And obviously the guy's playing frustrated. I was so excited when Evander Kane
Bennington? Was it Bennington that he did that?
Yeah, it was Bennington from St. Louis. Yeah, it was the St. Louis game.
Yeah.
So it's just so disappointing because when this guy got drafted by the Thrashers, I was so damn excited about Evander Kane.
I was too.
And, and I was a fan of his when he was at Thrashers because he's he may be an asshole, but he's our asshole.
Yeah, he was out there with fucking Bufflin knocking heads, man.
So, as an OG Thrashers fan here in Atlanta, it does suck to see that he has fallen from grace as hard as he kind of has. Because he's still fairly young. I mean, he's not like a young buck.
No, he's middle. He's like my age, I believe, like 28.
Yeah, so it's just I don't know his exact age. I do know that he is not, on the north side towards 40.
No.
By any means, and it's been crazy to watch his career and
yeah, he's 29 years old.
Yeah, it's been crazy to see him go so many places and this be the outcome.
Yeah, it ends not reflecting. It doesn't reflect good on you when something like this happens.
It also makes you like feel really bad, like with certain players that definitely are not the same stature of Vander Kane, but they stay with the same team the entire time. They're never going to get talked about. You know what I mean? It's one of those weird things where it's like, this guy is always going to be brought up, but Jeff Carter, right? Like
I have a soft spot in my heart for Jeff Carter. You know this.
Yes, I do know this, but what I'm saying is Jeff Carter is a prime example. Jeff Carter comes up in conversation, but not as much as Evander Kane comes up in conversation. And which one of those people would you rather have on your team?
I would
take
what I mean? Jeff Carter any day. And fun fact, I already had Jeff Carter on my team, and it was fucking great. So thank you for the memories, Jeff. It was wonderful. Oh, man. All right, bud, are you ready to get into our Hall of Fucking Awesome?
Well, no, we have one more division left, right? No, didn't talk about the Central.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Shit, we didn't. We were talking about the Red Wings, I think, but that was it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last division. We can wrap this one up pretty quick. The Central, to me, is the weakest division. Sorry if your team falls in the Central Division.
It's just not, like, aside from Tampa Bay, it's not any, like, A-list teams that make the playoffs every season. Like, maybe Columbus and maybe Dallas when they get there, when they get a rhythm going, because they're already very much ahead in the shot differential.
Not to call out potential conspiracies, but the fact the Lightning are in this division is ridiculous to me. In the Central Division, this shouldn't even be called the Central Division. It is more like
a diagonal. They're like a diagonal division.
It's the Southern Division because you have the Lightning in Florida, you have the Panthers in Florida, you have the
Carolina,
Dallas Stars, and then just out of nowhere you have like
Columbus and Detroit,
Queens, and then Chicago, and they're like in the middle. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah. Those are the central teams. It's just everywhere else is kind of just in the periphery of being central.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Tampa Bay has looked great. Didn't expect.
If anything, we expected Tampa Bay to run away with this one.
The Nashville has been a little surprising, honestly.
Yeah, again, still early in the season. 2 wins, 2 losses, no overtime. 4 points, not terrible. I went considering Tampa Bay leads with just 6 points.
And the Stars looked good in their first game, but the crazy thing is they've only played one game, so it's kind of hard to quantify where they're at. We talked about the Red Wings a little bit early. I think they have been a surprise.
Not too late either. Yeah, I mean, there's still some juice in the tank. If they can get a thing going, maybe they can run with it a little bit, especially in this division.
Well, they definitely came out this year not being okay with winning 12 games. So that's good. The Blue Jackets, we talked about them earlier as well. I think they're probably better off now that this trade is done. So we will see. Tortorella is a good coach. They have some good goaltending there. I think they can right the ship. I don't think it's end of days for them. And if I had to pick this division, I mean, it's probably going to be Lightning, Stars, maybe Florida Panthers, and then the Dallas Stars as far as the playoff teams go. This one's just so hard for me because a lot of these teams have not looked great so far.
Yeah, it's hard to say, honestly.
And also, they all have to play Tampa like 8 times.
Yeah.
So this division is going to be the weirdest one because this might be the division where you see a team that's like right under the 500 mark that makes the playoffs.
That's true. We could very well see Chicago in the playoffs again.
Because if you really think about it, Tampa could beat all of these teams 8 times.
Yeah.
Right.
That's very true. Yeah, they can.
I mean, that's not me just being a Tampa fanboy. It's just look at where Tampa is right now versus some of these other teams. Let's not say 8 times. Let's say they beat them 6 out of 8 times on every one of these teams' records. There's only 56 games this season, and if they split the rest of the games with their other opponents, you could very easily see a team sub 500 in this division make the playoffs because they're just the top 4th team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to watch. I hope Detroit sticks with it, though. I mean, I think anything's better than what they produced last season.
Yeah, and you know, they know they're in the middle of a rebuild. I'm glad that they've kept Dylan Larkin around and have not tried to ship him out. And he seems
I'm glad
okay.
they kept Stevie Y as general manager too.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that team for sure. It's crazy seeing Bernier still in net for a professional hockey team.
Yeah, it really is.
But I don't know. I guess we're definitely gonna see what happens with the Red Wings. Like I said, my roommate was a huge Red Wings fan. I watched all the games. I kind of saw the end of their playoff streak happening in front of me, much like I saw it with the Devils, where it's like, well, Zetterberg's got to go get back surgery, and Pavel Datsyuk's thinking about retiring, and Nick Lidstrom's not the same Nick Lidstrom he was, and Johan Franzen is got concussion issues, and Mike Babcock's an asshole.
Yeah, fucking dickhead Mike Babcock yelling at him like that. What the fuck's the matter with you?
I mean, you could kind of tell that it was the end of an era for the Red Wings. So it's gonna be fun to see them rebuild. It's cool to see that they brought in, you know, former players of that team to help work with it from the glory days. That's an exciting. That's going to be exciting to see what happens with that team. I don't think it's going to be this year. It's probably not even going to be next year. But as we saw with Tampa, that man can GM his ass off.
Yes, he can.
So we could see this team, you know, in the future being a really good team if everything falls in correctly. Right now, they're just kind of there. But so is the rest of the Central. Like, I don't see any of these teams going deep into the playoffs, maybe outside of Tampa.
Yeah, I was going to say Tampa being the exception.
And Chicago has looked like hot garbage. It's a definite end of the era for Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, we knew that like 3 seasons ago. We've just been holding on to false hope.
Yeah, I would not be incredibly surprised if they don't try to trade Patrick Kane for a first-round draft pick at some point.
Oh, then where do you think he ends up?
I have no idea.
Kings, maybe. I would say the Kings.
I don't know that. I mean, I would hope that he would want to go to a playoff team.
Nah, he'll go to the Kings.
Wherever he ends up, they have to have $10 million worth of cap space. So without looking at cap center or cap friendly, I don't have a good answer. I mean, you know, the honest thing would be like the Leafs would try to get him, but I don't know what they would have to do salary cap dump wise.
And would Patrick Kane on the Maple Leafs? Gross.
Yeah, it's a little disgusting.
No. I don't even want to think about it.
I'm trying to think of teams that are on the bubble. Like, if Washington is taking one more shot at this thing, if they could move some cap around. Maybe to Washington.
Maybe.
It would be crazy, but like maybe to the Bruins, they could use another scorer outside of Pasta and Marchand.
That could be a good trade, honestly. But who would they send in return? You know,
draft picks.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're trying to win now, that's the thing. Is like with the way the league is structured in the salary cap. It's almost like you have like a 3 or 4 year window to really send it, especially with some of these older players.
Yeah.
Like Rask is not going to be there in 2 years.
No.
Especially, I mean, he can keep playing at the level he's playing at, but he's going to wear down. I mean, we've seen it with goaltenders before. Eventually, it's just going to.
It always does, yeah.
And Halak his contract will probably come up, and they may move him, and I don't know. And they already lost Chara. They lost Krug. So, you know, that could be a team I could see that would go after a big name prospect, depending on what they look like mid-season.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. So.
All right, let's get into the Hall of Fucking Awesome. You had a recommendation.
Yes, I did.
100% agreed with this one because I think out of all of the enforcers of all time, this would be the one that I would not want to fight.
Well, I mean, I know we could go through this one in two ways. I mean, I could go through it, or do you wanna start it off and we'll?
No, you roll with it. Did
by
your
all means.
recommendation?
Yes.
Go for it.
All right. So this week our inductee into the Hall of Awesome is none other than Mr. Derek Bugard. If you don't know, and this is not like in talking about him, he was not a very old person. He is unfortunately dead. But we'll get to that. Derek Bugard was an absolute menace on the ice. Just a fighter through and through. Would just beat the brakes off of anybody who crossed paths with him. Without hesitation either. He would just drop the gloves. Played for the Minnesota Wild and the New York Rangers. He's a left winger. He was known as they called him the Boogeyman, is the one I know of, and they also called him the Mountie, evidently. It's hard to talk about. Like, this guy did so much on the ice in terms of like fighting and just being aggressive. He passed away at the age of 28 from an accidental drug and alcohol overdose while recovering from a concussion. And when they did an autopsy on him, this was a big part of the CTE thing, because it was found he had really bad CTE. And it's just like at this time in the NHL, like this stuff was just starting to get to be like a big name issue. I know his parents tried to sue the NHL and it ended up not working out. Either way, this guy, Derek Bugard, was just a hell of a person to watch on the ice, because he could just get out there and like knock somebody into another dimension.
And I think the biggest thing for me with Derek Bugard and his importance is the Minnesota Wild were an expansion team that had kind of no stars. And he became kind of their star, someone to get behind, someone to root for. Even though he was not the best on the ice as far as like hockey skill-wise goes.
No. I mean, he finished his entire NHL totals were 3 goals and 13 assists. 16 points, but he had 589 penalty minutes.
And I would say that he's probably, maybe him and John Scott are probably the last of those type of players we'll get. I guess Ryan Reeves to some extent.
Ryan Reeves is a very similar type fighter, but nowhere with near the intensity that Bugard did. Man, when Bugard fought you, it was an ass whooping. Like, I watched a bunch of his fights, like fight clips, and dude was just as old school of a fighter as you could possibly get. He probably would have fit better in like the 80s and late 80s and early 90s style of hockey, if he had to choose an ideal time in which to play hockey. But to see him on the ice, and again, I did watch him play. Again, he passed away in 2011, so this is 10 years ago now. So fitting that we put him in the Hall of Fucking Awesome now, 10 years afterwards. It's just crazy to see a person young like us. Like, I mean, I'm 27 years old, so I mean, I'm still relatively young, but not super young. But this is a person that didn't make it past 28, and it happened recently. It shows that it was still a problem in the NHL, and it continues to be a problem. But at least now they are working to mitigate head injuries like what Derek Bugard suffered time and time again.
Yeah, and to be fair to Derek Bugard and the NHL together, there's not necessarily any proof that this came from fighting.
No, and it's always hard to say with hockey because you never know outside of the thing. It was the same thing with I think Probert was one that they found CTE after the autopsy. Definitely John Kordick, who I've talked about a couple of times, is another story like Bugard. That ended too young, but they found CTN. The stuff that they found in Bugard's head, this was stuff they weren't even finding on guys in middle age with CTE. Like, it was a mess.
Yeah, and this goes to the argument of if you should take fighting out of hockey, which we're pretty much going to see this year. You're not going to see a lot of fights this year. We've seen a couple set off, but
yeah, but you're not going to see anywhere what you used to see. And maybe it's for the better. It does take a little bit of the spirit out of the game. I think everybody loves a good tiff, no matter what. But I don't think it's going to hurt the overall integrity of the game, especially looking to mitigate things like what happened with Derek Bugard and John Cordick and Bob Probert and all these other guys who just beat the shit out of people on the ice. And then later on in life, things just happened and it ends badly.
I would highly recommend if anyone out there listening has not already seen it, watching Last of the Gladiators, which star Christopher Nilan, who we talked about earlier.
Nilan, thank you for the memos. Love it. Never gonna say that. Never gonna not say that. That was so fucking cool.
And they specifically show the Bugard fight against Federot, where he throws one shot and breaks this guy's jaw in 6 places.
You're not going to see punches like that in today's game.
It's, you'll see, you're definitely going to still see people throw hands, but, the refs have done a lot better job of getting in there, whether you like it or not. Because, depending on where your team is at in this game, you may want to see, say, Miles Wood fuck somebody up if you're a Devils fan.
Yeah.
Depending on what's happening. But it is very crazy. I will say Bugard is, as far as watching him fight people, he is one of the scariest I've ever seen.
They don't call him the boogeyman for nothing.
Well, because of the sheer power and force that this man was able to fight. And he also didn't lose his skates from underneath him when he was in these fights. He had this squat stance where he could stay centered. That's if you look at someone like a Tony Twist, where you have to get half naked. Part of his problem was staying on his skates once the fight started. Same thing with Mike Peluso, who also is another candidate for, if you want to talk about CTEs, but and he's came out and said this it was fight related, but not fight related. It's him specifically him and Probert had a fight. Probert wasn't able to catch his sweater when he hit him, and he went ass over tea kettle, and he cracked the back of his head on the ice.
Yeah.
Not necessarily from the fight, but because of the fight.
Yeah, because of it's still, whether or not it's injuries inflicted by the fight is still the causal factor of these injuries to begin in the first place.
Yeah, depending on how you look at it. But I don't know. I haven't looked at Fight DB recently, but I can't think of a lot of people that ever took Bugard to the woodshed. I can think of, who's the guy that used to play for Boston? I remember really good Sean Thornton.
Yeah, maybe.
He had a really good tilt with Bugard, but there's very few that I can think of. With Probert, because there were so many of these guys, and he was kind of the king of kings when it comes to this, you saw a lot of good tilts, but it was almost like when they call him the boogeyman, people were legitimately scared of Bugard and what he was able to do. And when
he could fucking end your season with one punch.
As we saw with the Federer fight.
Yeah.
But I think, good induction to the Hall of Fucking Awesome. A little sad.
Yeah, it always hurts when we have to induct these guys posthumously, and especially one that died so young. Which again, if I had to relate to another player, it'd be a lot like a John Cordick, which I brought it up for those of you who don't know. Cordick was on the team the same time as Nilan was. He threw hands all the time. He was right there with Nilan throwing hands with everybody. And Cordick didn't make it to, I think he died at age 27 from a drug overdose. And, I believe when they did the thing, they found a lot of CTE. And, it's a shame that it happens to guys like this. And it's a shame that it happened to somebody so far along. Because you think 2011, yeah, it's 10 years ago now, but it's still not that long ago.
Yeah, and it's also crazy to think about what fights were 10 years ago versus what they are now.
Exactly. Aaron Asham was still fucking on the ice, fucking people up in 2011.
Yeah, and hockey is the weird sport where it does police itself a lot because you have the ability to whip the shit out of someone with a stick when no one's looking. So it's always I think fighting will always be a part of the game unless they just completely ban it or start making people wear full face helmets. They've done many things in past year. Like now you can't remove your helmet before a fight, which used to be kind of a tradition. Yeah. If you were a true tough guy, you didn't want to hurt your hand on the guy's helmet, and they didn't want to hurt their hands on your helmet. So helmets would come off. We've seen like you can't the fight strap rule where your fight strap has to be attached or you can technically get suspended. So I mean they've done a lot to not get rid of fighting, but to make it not as dangerous, as crazy as that sounds. But with Derek Bugard, and for you new listeners, if there's any new listeners out there, the Hall of Fucking Awesome is not like these are the greatest hockey players of all time. We do have those guys in
favorites.
there.
Yeah.
We have like Mario Lemieux, we have Gretzky, we have the Rocket Richard, we have people that we talked about that are just incredible fucking pure goal scorers or great players in their position. But we also have people that maybe get overlooked and might not ever make the NHL Hall of Fame, but definitely hold a special place in our hearts as far as watching them growing up in our childhood. So this is kind of the place to release that. So if you guys have any suggestions for Hall of Fucking Awesome, make sure you send them in.
Please get with us. Let us know, if there's a certain thing you want us to touch on. We really want to hear from you guys because, I mean, you're the people that listen to this. Like, I can sit here and be like, oh, let's talk about the California Golden Seals. I'm sure that's a team that's got something. We can do that. But, I mean, fan engagement, I mean, if you guys listen to this, if you've made it this far in, evidently you like the kind of what we're talking about and how we go about it. But we like to hear from you guys. So, I mean, by all means, drop us a line. I mean, we'll give our stuff here in just a second when we outro, but definitely 100% Derek Bugard deserves to be in the Hall of Fucking Awesome. So it was a no-brainer for me to put him on the list for this week.
Agreed completely. And next week maybe we'll do a pure goal scorer.
I'm sure we can find one.
In the past we have done Teemu Selanne is in there as an absolute monster, and like I said, we have Gretz, we have the Rocket Richard, we've talked about Gordie Howe. So if you guys want to go back and check out those episodes, they're out there as well.
Phil Kessel's in there if he really strikes your fancy like he does for us.
He's in there just specifically for having a weird lonely theater.
Well, no, he's also in there for the hot dog and the Stanley Cup.
Yes. We might just induct all of Pantera at one point into the Hall of Fucking Awesome.
For their contributions to the Dallas Stars Stanley Cup season.
But
and for denting the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, all joking aside, I think this wraps it up for us. Unless you got something else you want to talk about, Dakota.
Nah, man, I think we really hit on everything. But yeah, that's it's the funny thing about hockey. Like, people look at it as just a sport, but there are so many good fucking stories just floating out there that just are the best. So
I think fun. The one thing I can say about hockey in comparison to a lot of other sports, it still does have a team camaraderie, in which is lost on in some ways. I love the NBA, but has been lost.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah,
with modern NBA, for instance,
it's not so much. It's because hockey's not an individual sport, whereas basketball, you can have one player that's out there just shining and scoring points for the team. But like, hockey is truly a team effort. Like, it takes an entire team to win a hockey game.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about how good someone like Gretzky or Crosby is.
Yeah, they didn't do it alone. Right there next to Crosby was Malkin. Right there next to Gretzky was Messier.
Yeah, they're only going to be on the ice for a minute and 20.
Yeah.
For each shift, you know what I mean? So it's unless you're talking about Victor Hedman, who just plays 60 minutes a night.
Yeah, Victor Hedman's just a fucking cyborg, though.
So he doesn't really count. But and I'm not taking anything away. I love basketball. I grew up, obviously watching in the time period of the Chicago Bulls and the Patrick Ewing Knicks.
I'm just used to nothing but sadness.
The Tim Duncan Spurs. I get it. But the game has definitely changed. I would say the same thing about football. Like, I don't, in Atlanta here specifically, they talk about the brotherhood of these players. And, there's no brotherhood like hockey if you watch sports, or in my opinion. But and that doesn't mean that I'm not going to watch the rest of these sports. And now I'm going on a weird tangent, so we're just going to wrap it up there. The brotherhood of hockey and being able to stand up for your fellow teammate,
yes,
and fight and throw
hands.
Hockey
is without a doubt probably one of the most unique sports out there. So if you know, I mean, if you're what are you doing if you're listening to this podcast if you don't watch hockey? But if you don't watch hockey and you discovered us by mistake, maybe give it a chance. Well, it's a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of fun. With no fans there, especially, you hear things that the players say, and they always come up with hilarious shit. It's truly a good sport.
There's nothing in the entire world like it.
No.
And like I said, I love all sports. I really am a big fan. I love my Atlanta Braves. I love my Hawks. I watch the New York Jets. I don't necessarily want to say I love them because they killed Carl. Jets killed Carl. So that's a hard one to stomach. But I do love Curtis Martin still to this day. No, all joking aside, I'm not trying to take a dump on other sports, but there is something very different about hockey, and that's why someone like Derek Bugard would end up in our Hall of Fucking Awesome because
simply because he strapped on a pair of ice skates and went out and just beat the shit out of anybody that crossed paths with him. Like I said, I mean, honestly, it takes so much skill to fight someone on a pair of ice skates. You have no idea. And for someone to never fall over once, like, that's insane.
Yes. And also to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Like Tanner Glass slew footing one of your star players. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's, like I said, if you're new to this podcast, maybe you're just getting into hockey, check out Last of the Gladiators for sure. Go back and check out our Red Army versus United States episodes.
Go back and check out a bunch of our hockey. Any of the hockey versus communism ones they're great because there's so much that went on behind the scenes and so much funny shit.
And also it points to why hockey is the game it is. And when we talk about the brotherhood of hockey players,
just listen to Phil Esposito's speech from the 1972 Summit Series. All you need to know about the sport of hockey right there in that man's speech.
Why he was so disappointed in Canadians.
Yes.
It's great. Check those out if you haven't. My name's Chris Patton. Right now, this is the only podcast I got going. So if you want to talk to me on Twitter, the hottest free agent in podcasting. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can hit me at Chris R. Patton on Twitter, on Instagram at Chris R. Patton, on Facebook, Christopher.R.Patton. There was another Chris R. Patton. Also, if you Google search my name, you will find a voice actor named Christopher Patton.
And that's not you, right?
That is not me. I am not the anime voice actor. I have never worked on Dragon Ball. I wish I did work on Dragon Ball. That'd be awesome. But yeah, not me. We'll send it over to you, Dakota. Give everyone your shout outs and plug anything you want to plug.
I, of course, am Dakota LaShock. I am on Twitter every now and again. You can find me at LaShock Dakota. Don't know what happens if you Google search my name. I've only done it a couple times, and those times it just brought up weird pictures of me from high school for some reason. So thanks, Google. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not really on any. I drop in every now and again on other Geek Vibes podcasts. Pop my head up every now and again if it's something that strikes my fancy. Definitely when Star Wars gets back up and running, I'll probably be on there. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. Like horror movies and stuff too, so if there's ever something like that, you can find me about that. You can pretty much talk to me about anything at Twitter if you want. Yeah, that's about it for me, bud. That was all I needed.
All right, and always check out geekvibesnation.com for all of your geek-related news, comics, movies, reviews, true crime, to some extent, depending on if me and Tia do a podcast. All sorts of stuff, all over the board, man. Book reviews.
Geek Vibes is great for that, man. They've got something for everybody.
Yes, and tons of episode. If you're into wrestling, I do have a wrestling podcast with 300 plus episodes backlog you can listen to at Wrestling Geeks Alliance. I just want to wrap up the show. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy hockey. Let's go Devils. And I guess Henrique, it's over? Question mark?
No, I'm not going to end it on you saying let's go Devils. It's Flyers. Go Flyers.
And in general, you guys enjoy your weekend. Peace out, and let the Geek Vibes be with you.
Hey, Dakota. How you doing, pal? Knuckles Nilan here. Just reaching out. I want to congratulate you on being a new dad, having a beautiful baby girl named Avada. Welcome to the world, Avada. and hopefully we get rid of this pandemic pretty soon, so Vada can start to begin a normal life. Now, as far as you, Dakota, listen, I love people that are fans of hockey, but the Broad Street Bullies, Flyers fan? Are you kidding me? The Flyers? The Broad Street babies? Oh, come on. I used to slap them around silly all the time, and they are a bunch of bullies. So you could have picked a better team there. You know, they think they are the tough. They still think they're tough. They got a bunch of guys that tiptoe through the tulips, if you ask me. Anyway, listen, it's not too late to change. Could always become a Habs fan. It'd be a great time to be a Habs fan, actually. Things are looking pretty good here in old Montreal. And, yeah, all kidding aside, Flyers have a good team. They do. And they look pretty good. So I don't like the fact that when guys play tough because they have tough guys around them, that's what I don't like. And there used to be some of them guys down in Philly that once they get out of there, they turn into very sedate, nice people, put it that way. So, anyway, listen, Dakota, all the best for you, Dad. That's awesome. Starting a new chapter in your life. Hopefully this COVID thing gets by us and we can get back to some type of normalcy. All right, you be good. And if you want to bust someone bald because of this, talk to your buddy Chris Patton. Take care, my friend.
Does anybody want breakfast? Guys, let's go. I'm leaving for McDonald's in 5 seconds.
Why did you start with that?
The Breakfast Stampede Meal. It's only at McDonald's, where there's a meal for every morning.
Enjoy our value favorites, like a sausage McMuffin with egg, just 2 for $4. And get an any-size McCafe Premium Roast Coffee for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Single item at regular price cannot be combined with combo meal. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
We're always driving to dance lessons. So we signed up for Know Your Drive. We save money and get closer to her dancing dreams.
The daring young man on the flying trapeze.
Or maybe her singing dreams. Sign up for Know Your Drive and save up to 20%. American Family Insurance. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly.
Products not available in every state. Discount terms apply. Visit amfam.com/knowyourdrive for details. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.